Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty, and we are once again reviewing issue 1 from Boom Studios. This time it's called Behold, Behemoth, written by Tate Brombal, art by Nick Robles. Tate Brombal, I think, is one of the guys who was doing House of Slaughter, which is cool. I like House of Slaughter stuff. Look forward to reading more of it. But this one, I'm not as excited about, or as biased towards as I was for Damn Them All. But, superior. However, it's still very easy to get caught up in the excitement that is a new Boom release. Yes, there's going to be a whole bunch of covers. They even do multiple prints of them. There's rumours of a TV show or movie option any day now. And yes, you could use this as an excuse to dismiss the stories and the art as just a prolonged pitch to an executive. But I have higher opinions of comic book creators than that. I'm not saying this doesn't happen. I'm not saying the landscape hasn't changed since the Marvel movies became the biggest thing since Star Wars. However, I do think it's easier and way more fun to engage with a comic book on its own terms. Sure, it might be that someone working at Netflix reads something and wants to make some money off of it, but if you're going to review a comic book, then just review the comic book. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now, because this really is something special. It's a story that's not only great, but it spans time and imagination and reality. What's fantastic, though, is that the setup doesn't feel too out there. In fact, it's really well grounded. It's all about this fellow called Grayson, whose job is safeguarding children. This will come back later. Who's going to the funeral of his brother, his older brother, in fact, who was a cop. At several points in the story, it does become clear the two brothers have grown distant. There's clues in the dialogue and backstory, but thankfully it's not spelled out nice and easy. It actually leaves me thinking that even my guesses, there might be more to the whole story that's not out yet. Hopefully we'll get more of it as the series progresses. However, maybe it is this distance that explains that whilst at the funeral, he does drift off into some weird dark dream fantasy. Mostly it feels like a memory of when the two brothers were young. You do see them as kids, talking as kids do about kid things, but there's something about the dialogue between the two of them that doesn't ring true. It's the first thing you get that even the fantasy that you're seeing here is not to be trusted. There's more going on than we're led to believe. In this dream, his brother Liam is his saviour and protector. He takes the punishments that were intended for his little brother as well as protecting him from them. But more than that, he actually fights the hell back, which is nice to see, especially from young kids. The artist does have some fun here too. There is certainly a sense of reality to this dream, but it has unreality nibbling at its edges. There's odd scratchy lines, really over-the-top bold colouring, and terrifying onomatopoeic soundscapes, and also what Liam protecting his little brother from. At this point, there's no direct mention of the exact nature of the childhood trauma the brothers lived through, but it doesn't take much to jump to the conclusion that it's parent or guardian who is abusing the kids. This is all but confirmed at a later point in the story when the younger brother is actually admitting that he's gone through something very much like that while trying to comfort a contemporary or current victim of the exact same thing. When this other character first appears, she does seem more like a way of showing development for our lead character. Thankfully, the writing makes sure she gets better rounded out later on, and if I tell you anything else about the character, I'll need to put some spoiler warnings, and I don't really have time for that. Now, though, it's a great time to talk about the art. Throughout the book, Robles uses the art to show how reality and fiction bleed through into each other really effectively. There's no obvious way he does this. There's lots of little tricks, and of all of them, my favourite is when artwork escapes from its panels. I really quite like it. It's playing with form in a way that I really enjoy. It also shows that, like Gray's experience of the world, we can't really trust what we're seeing, and we have no actual idea whether the world and the fantasy he used to protect his psyche are divided or where they overlap. This is going to come back to play quite often. These amazing visual tricks are far from the only reason I love the artwork, though. In one of the fantasy scenes, we have this really nice wide landscape shot with exceptionally well done dynamism of action throughout, basically unknown warriors fighting across hills, valleys, and mountains, and it's amazing on the face of it is more than that. With a limited colour palette, you do get a superb sense of depth. Deep and dark reds, full shadows and darkness making way for lighter colours. These are like fading out as if by distance or mist, or maybe just that we understand that what we're seeing isn't real. It gives a real sense of depth I'm not used to seeing. It's also a great idea of scale. There are monsters. Yes, other artists can do the same thing by utilising amazing three-point perspective, which I love, and by situating the point of view, they can do great things. Robles manages all of this in a far more organic way. It's just as effective, and also doesn't come across like a technical exercise. Now, I've honestly lost track of how many times I've talked about fantasy versus reality in this review, but they have to be discussed, and both the art and the writing refuse to let us escape the concept of them. Yes, we've talked about how the art does it, but in terms of plot and pace, we have to get back to Grayson. When the world is more than he can cope with, he loses time. He suffers blackouts and awakens at later points, unsure of what he's missed, what he may have done during these times, or what he has been witness to. Thankfully, the human mind is great at protecting himself, and he has a nice, convenient excuse that he's been taking medication, and maybe it's not doing what it should, and that he really needs to be on better drugs, stronger drugs. And this means he gets through most of the first issue without ever really interrogating himself on why these things are happening. It does give us a fun question to ask, though. Are we dealing with an unreliable narrator or an unreliable reality? It's easy just to assume that all the things we can't explain rationally are just not real. totally what Grayson does. But as viewers of the story from the outside, we have a different perspective. Because of the visual narrative tricks the creators are using, there's far more of a sense that we can't trust Grayson. So can we trust what we're seeing on the page? Well, it has an ending that takes a very big swing at answering that questions, but it goes one further and actually just made me question even more what I've just read. A good twist ending should not be spoiled though, so that's all you'll get from me. It does certainly make me want more though, and I hope if you've picked up the first issue, you'll come back next month for more. You might even get some answers, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. That is all I've got time for today. Right now though, I will come back with another review tomorrow. Until then, look after each other everyone. Stay safe. Bye!